Hi, everybody. Pete Sardis for The Lawyer You Know. Well, Elizabeth Holmes has lost her request to the Court of Appeals to stay out on bond pending the outcome of that appeal, which means she is going to prison. Today, we're going to talk about what that means. We'll talk about the actual prison that she's supposed to go to and what her life's going to be like over the course of the next few years. So with that, let's jump into it. Let me share my screen so you guys can kind of see what's going on, and you can follow along with me. If, of course, you're interested, you can always go right to the Bureau of Prisons website, and you can actually look most of this stuff up on your own. So with that, let's go into it. And here we go. I'm sharing our screen here in a moment. Here, let's do it this way. I'll make it bigger so you guys can actually see what I'm seeing. All right. So let's kind of start from the top. Elizabeth Holmes, as you know, had requested the Court of Appeals to allow her to stay out on bond, basically saying that there is enough in her appeal that the trial court should have allowed her to stay out on bond because there's a good chance her case is going to be overturned and she's going to be back in federal prison, either getting a new trial or the appellate court may very well dismiss her charges against her. So with that being said, she filed a motion to stay out on bond. The Court of Appeals denied that motion at the beginning of last week. So on May 30th, she is to report to the federal prison in Bryan, Texas. For those of you that are interested in the geography of it, Bryan federal prison is somewhere between Houston and Dallas. So that kind of gives you an idea about where it is geographically. It is a minimum security, all-female federal prison camp. And we'll talk about what all that means in a second, but let's talk about what Elizabeth Holmes has to do on May 30th. She literally gets some papers from the U.S. Marshal's office, and that gives the federal facility of Bryan basically the instructions on what's going to happen. And obviously, they know she's coming, so she has up until X time, and they kind of break it down based on how many inmates are showing up to a particular facility at any particular time. She shows up, presents her papers, and they will take her into custody. And when I say show up, someone basically just drives her to the prison, and she walks in the front door, at which point she is taken into custody. And the in-processing period starts. And in processing, it kind of varies, but they say it takes about 30 days to really get you completely in processed into a facility. And what I mean by in processing is this. She will be given a medical physical. She will be given a psychiatric and psychological assessment. She'll be given a vocational assessment. They will give her the prison handbook, so she has the rules and regulations of the prison. She's going to be assigned a place where she's going to sleep. There are going to be just a number of events that happen over the course of a number of days. And realize all this stuff doesn't happen all in one day. She'll be given, her civilian clothes will be taken away from her. Any jewelry she has will be taken away from her. Most people don't show up to federal prison with this stuff, but in case they put it in a little pouch for you and they put it away in kind of storage. So then what will happen is they'll give her federal prison clothing, and she gets basically an allotment. And it's normally a pair of shoes, some socks, and a couple of changes of clothing. She's allowed to keep civilian underwear, but there are limitations. For example, they don't allow lingerie, but of course, your tighty-whities are perfectly fine. You can bring your own bras, for example, things of that nature. They'll then get her set up in housing. They will get her indoctrinated into the prison so she knows where everything is. She'll meet her counselor, who will basically stay with her and monitor her progress over the course of time. Like I said, there's an in-processing where she's given her prison handbook. There's also normally like a video or something from the warden that says, "Welcome to the federal prison camp in Bryan. Here is what is expected of you. Here are the processes for filing grievances, requesting sick call, and anything that you might need to know to live life in the federal prison." At some point, I anticipate she is going to be assessed vocationally to determine whether or not she qualifies for any education assistance or if she qualifies for a Unicor job. We'll talk about that in a moment. So let's talk about the federal prison camp in Bryan. So this is a all-female facility, and it is a camp, which is the lowest level of incarceration that you can have in the federal prison system. And this is a good thing for Elizabeth Holmes because this is the least restrictive facility that the Federal Bureau of Prisons has. I've got a book here. It's called the Federal Prison Guidebook, and I'll do a shout out to Alan Ellis, who's been publishing this book for a long time now. And what he does is he goes to all the federal prisons and puts together a list of everything that is involved in that particular prison so that inmates and their attorneys kind of know how to ask for prison assignments from the courts based on what is available at that specific prison. So let's talk about it. It is a 37-acre compound, and as of this week, it has 654 inmates. I understand that the inmate population does fluctuate at this facility. I have seen it being as high as 878 back in 2017, but as of this week, it is 654. You can actually go to the Bureau of Prisons website, and you can see it on the screen. It's at locations and institutions, and you can follow along to determine how many inmates there are. And actually, vast majority of people that go here can at least be given some sort of vocation. So when they leave the prison, they have an education. At the minimum, they can do something in the civilian world. There are also vocational apprenticeships, and let's see, they have cosmetology and horticulture, and apprenticeships programs in dental assisting. Pretty darn good. I'm not sure how happy you'd be if your dental assistant was in fact a convicted felon, but I digress. All right. There's a library. There is a Unicor facility, and I keep talking about Unicor. And what Unicor is, it is prison industries, basically. The Unicor and its related entities, meaning some civilian entities, actually use prison labor to build things, to make stuff that are used either in the prison system themselves or in the court system. For example, if you were to go to a federal courthouse and you sit down in a chair or you sit at a table, the chances are that those tables and chairs are actually produced by a Unicor facility somewhere in the Bureau of Prisons by prison labor. So with that, there is a Unicor center at this facility. 283 inmates actually work at it, and they actually assemble and distribute various products made and produced by Unicor. So I'm guessing it is tables and chairs and things of that nature. There, of course, are wonderful medical facilities in all prisons, especially in the federal camps. There are counseling and rehab services for an array of therapy and psychoeducational programs to include drug programs, child abuse, child illness, parenting classes, drug education, trauma abuse, violence therapy, all kinds of stuff. There's literally a list. And again, if you want to take a look at it, you can find that in the prison guidelines of what they have available to them. Health service, they do have one physician, 4 physician assistants, and 1 dentist on staff. There are examinations at regular intervals to include annual breast examinations and routine pregnancy screening during the time that the inmate is there. So Elizabeth Holmes will actually go through all this initially through her in-processing, but apparently every at least 3 to 5 years, she will have, normal gynecological appointments. And apparently they do pregnancy screenings often. Again, women's prison, full complement of medical, especially gynecological services for those inmates. Let's talk about housing. This is kind of a big deal. Inmate housing is in what's called an open bay scenario. So what that means is there are not like Shawshank Redemption, where there are individual cells inside of blocks with just 2 people in a room that they lock every night. The housing is open base. So think of it like, for those of you that have served in the military, it's a barracks is what it is. Think of it like a big dormitory. For those of you that, that are more kind of familiar with the college setting, And what it says is that they have open bay dormitories, and there are 4-person and 10-person rooms. So within the open bay, there's probably a day room, we call it. It's got a television, it's got some tables and chairs, and then there are rooms that surround that day room that are either 4-person or 10-person bays that are just, you kind of open the door, you walk inside, and you walk out. There's really no bars and chains and locks and things that you would expect when you think federal prison. In fact, if you look at the picture in front of you for the Bryan Federal Prison Camp, you actually see the fence there. That's the fence. There is no barbed wire. There is no razor wire. There is no electrified multiple layers of fencing. It doesn't exist. And you know the reason why? The reason why is if you're in federal prison and you have the ability to be in a minimum security camp, you don't want to do anything that's going to jeopardize your classification. It could potentially make you go to a higher classification of prison that does have razor wire and multiple levels of fences and individualized cells that people are locked in. So this is kind of a treat for purposes of being in prison. And a lot of people that are in prison for a long time kind of matriculate through the system. And when you get to a point where you have a short prison sentence, normally less than 10 years, that's when you're eligible for a camp, presuming that you're not a violent offender or someone that's got a bad prison history for your discipline. You got to really try hard to be in these facilities. And yes, if Elizabeth Holmes screws it up and she starts having problems with inmates and she starts getting in fistfights and she starts, I'm just making, things up so you understand what I'm talking about, getting in trouble generally, she can lose this assignment and she can be sent up to a different classification facility where her movement and her life will not be as easy. So that is why there are not, I guess, more detailed security measures in these places. If you can see in the picture, and I hope you can, you actually see a lot of picnic tables and chairs that are there. It's a nice facility. It's obviously very pretty. It's maintained by the inmates for the most part. So I think they do a good job trying to keep it looking right. Again, this is where you live. This is your home. You don't want it to be a mess. Let's talk about let's see here. Television. Television is available basically from Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and holidays. TV's open until 2 a.m. Normally, they're in from 6 a.m. to 11:30 p.m. during the week. So there's a TV there. People watch it. And again, on the weekends, got a little extra hours there. There's fitness and recreation that exists in this facility. And let's talk about that. Outdoor recreation is open 7 days a week, 6 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. and then from 5 p.m. to 8:30. What's the difference? Why is there a break in time? Count. They actually count the inmates every day, and that is why you see a break in facilities, because everybody has to be back in their rooms. They can be counted every day. But after count, you just go back out to your to your outdoor recreation if that's what you were doing. They also have indoor recreation open 5 days a week, 6:30 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. and 5 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. And here's what they have. They have softball, soccer, volleyball, a jogging track, and horseshoes. The pavilion activities include basketball, ping pong tables, weightlifting, and step aerobics. There are also hobbies that you can partake in, like ceramics, paper jewelry making, beading, clay, and some sort of Fimo clay, whatever that is, plastic, canvas art, t-shirt painting, cross-stitching, crochet, knitting, scrapbooking, card making, and drawing. So all of these are kind of hobbies that you can participate in when you're off times at the facility. Obviously, for religious purposes, there is a chaplain full-time on staff, and it says that they provide a litany of religious services for various religions. So I guess they're just going to ask her, what religion are you in? Are you active? And they'll make sure that they assign her to whatever it is that she needs to have for worship purposes. All right. Commissary. Let's talk about the commissary. You have a $360 spending limit per month. And let me go down. If I find, yes, here is the commissary list. So let's take a look at that for a second. Commissary list. So these are the things that you can buy at the federal prison. And it says that the shopping times are, and you get to circle one, 6:30 a.m. to 7:30 a.m., 10:30 a.m. to 12:15 p.m., 2 p.m. to 3:15 p.m. So I'm presuming that these are the times that you can elect to be able to go to the actual commissary. And it's almost like a little mini mart. It is a convenience store, for lack of a better term. For those of you that, again, served in the military, this is one of those concepts where you go in and kind of buy the little things that you need for yourself: shoe polish, sweatshirts, t-shirts, we called it pogey bait, meaning snacks and things like that, all of which are available for purchase. And if you can see here, I hope you can see it. Let me make it a little bit bigger. You can actually see bagged popcorn, $1.60. Small bag of chips, $1.25 to $1.55. Raisins, $3. You can buy combs, different types of combs, makeup brush sets, eyeliner, mascara, all of which are available. Clothing, you can get a neck gaiter, you can get a beanie, you can get gloves, t-shirts. I'll just go down the line just to show you how big the selection actually is. Pizzas, seasonings, jellies, waffles, coffee mate, coffee itself, crackers, health and hygiene, different types of shampoos, different types of equipment like you might need, for example, like nail files or clippers. You can buy cocoa butter. You can get anything that you would think of that exists in the civilian world. For the most part, you can buy them here at the facility. And I'm going to go through to the second page to give you an idea about what you can get. Everything, even glue sticks and colored pencils, multivitamins, an alarm clock, headphones, G-Shock radios, batteries, and I like this, very good, kosher items. So if in fact you are Jewish and you need a kosher item, they will provide them for you. So there you go. A couple pages worth of commissary items that you have the right to purchase at regular intervals. And again, there was a $360 limit, at least it was when this particular volume of the book came out, for inmates. Phone calls. Inmates can call direct or they can call collect. The telephones are available from 6 a.m. until 11:30 a.m. and then from 7:30 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. and 12:30 p.m. to 4 p.m. Again, they make breaks for counts, and it looks like for meals at this point. But from that point forward, you're allowed to make phone calls. They ask that you limit those phone calls to 15 minutes unless there's a line, and they ask you to be kind to your fellow inmates to make sure that everybody gets a chance to make their phone calls. 300 minutes per month does not count attorney-client phone calls. That's purely for pleasure, presuming that the people that you want to call are on the inmate-approved list. So in order for you to be able to call someone from the prison, you've got to notify the prison who it is you're calling. You've got to give them their phone number, and they vet these people. So, for example, if you're a drug lord, you're not allowed to call your cartel underbosses from the prison because the prison's not going to allow those phone calls, but you are allowed to call your mother, as long as, of course, those calls are, those people are screened and cleared. You have 300 phone calls per month. I'm sorry, let me say that again. 300 calling minutes per month. So you get to speak to whoever you want for 300 minutes per month, except for November and December when they give you an extra 100 minutes because it's the holidays. So, of course, there's a little bit more time given to people. Realize that these are all available to the inmates. But again, if there's trouble, if you're a problem for the facility, if you're causing issues, you can lose a lot of these privileges. And people, again, in federal prisons, especially at this level, at the camp level, make it their priority to not be a problem. Because the last thing you want to do is to lose your commissary privileges, to lose your Unicor job, and to lose your phone call minutes, because those are the little things in life at prison that keep you, keep you sane. Other than that, there are visiting hours, and the visiting hours, again, approved visitors. Just got to put those people on the list, and they will be vetted. Again, can't bring your drug dealer to the jail to see you, but you can bring your mama, as long as, of course, that person qualifies, meaning that there's no issues with that individual. Here are visiting hours. Saturday and Sunday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. and on federal holidays from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Again, this doesn't count lawyers. Lawyers make arrangements on their own. So that's life, basically. Those are the privileges of life at Bryan. What does day-to-day look like? It depends. They wake up early. You're going to be in your prison garb, at which point you go throughout your day. You have your breakfast. You go to your classes, if those are things that you do, or your unicorn job, if that's what you have. And for Elizabeth Holmes's perspective, understand that she's a high school graduate. She went to college, one of the top colleges in the country, even though she didn't graduate, therefore the dropout. Her education is going to be taken into consideration because maybe she's not going to be one of the people learning English as a second language or getting her GED, but she might be one of the people teaching others those classes. Even though she may not be taking a specific therapy group session for, battered women or whatever the case may be, she may actually be the one that's part of the therapy process. And this happens. Inmates help inmates within the prison. If you can read, you help others to learn how to read. If you speak English and Spanish, you help those people learn English as a second language. And I don't want to limit it just to Spanish. It's frankly a number of languages. So that is kind of what a day-to-day is going to be like. There'll be lunch, there'll be dinner, there'll be, personal time for showers and walking around and using the jogging track and all those things. And that's what your day is. Day in and day out. The breakup is, of course, the telephone time, your athletic time, and your visitation. There are, of course, leagues for volleyball. There are leagues for softball. So they actually organize those at the prison, and they play amongst themselves. I don't know if they actually have a prison league still that rotates around the country. I think those days are done. So if you saw some of those, old movies where this prison showed up to play football with that prison, they don't normally do that anymore. So it's basically leagues within the prison itself. So that gives you an idea about Elizabeth Holmes' day in and day out life at the prison, what you can expect to see over the next 30 days for intake. And then from that point forward, what you can expect to have her life be, at least for the time that she's in the prison. Now, she still has her normal appeal up for the merits of the case. And I believe that that's going to take some time to vet. Normally 6 months to a year is not unreasonable. So I think that what we'll see over the course of the next at least few months, I'll keep my eye on it to see what's happening. We'll get the briefing schedules. We'll actually see what gets filed in the court system. And we'll talk about what the actual issues are as they come. Beyond that, we're just going to wait for an order from the appellate court. It's actually called an opinion. And that opinion is going to tell us whether or not Elizabeth Holmes is stuck, at which point she will just stay at Bryan, hopefully, for the next however many years. Or she will go back to the trial court and redo this trial. So that is the plan at this point. I'll keep you posted as things happen. Again, if you have specific questions about the prison system, about this particular facility, leave them in the comments below. If you have comments, if you have any thoughts, I'd like to hear your opinions. Do you think Elizabeth Holmes is going to win her appeal? Do you think she's going back to have this brand new trial? Do you think Bryan is going to be home for the next, however many years of her life? Let me know what your thoughts are below. There's also another tidbit of information. Apparently, this facility has been home to some pretty famous people. I'm not going to give shout outs to anybody, but there are some, famous housewives of blank. I'm not going to insert the name here, who are currently serving time in federal prison camp of Bryan, Texas. So Elizabeth Holmes will have some company of some people that are at least have been in the media, have been in the limelight in her life. So interesting. You can look those up on your own. You can see kind of who's been there and who's there now. So with that, thanks for joining me. I'll keep you posted. Leave your questions, leave your comments below, and we'll talk about it as things happen.
Thanks for watching another episode of The Lawyer You Know. If you enjoyed the episode, please hit the thumbs up and share with your friends who may be interested here on YouTube. And don't forget to subscribe. You can also follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and TikTok at Tragos Law is our handle. And don't forget to listen to the Lawyer You Know podcast featuring new episodes every week. If you have a case you want to talk to us about, if it's a personal injury case, wrongful death, catastrophic injury, car accident, or slip and fall case, please email us at lawyeryouknow@gmail.com. And of course, all these links I just mentioned are included in the description below on this episode and every episode. So until next time, this is Peter Tragos, the Lawyer You Know.